All right. Hello, folks, and welcome to episode 25 of our pairing stream. How's it going, Mike?
Good. Good morning. Good afternoon. Good evening, wherever y'all are.
Right.
I was just looking at skimming over our notes from last time. It was actually a couple of weeks ago since we last did this.
Yes,
Like,
yes.
whoa.
Because you were out of town, and I was
And you were out of
also,
town.
and I was out of town at the Agile Open Northwest conference, which was a lot of stuff. Hey, it's the Grumpy Game Dev. Welcome.
Wow.
Nice to
Long
see you
time.
again.
Yeah.
Um,
How was the conference?
how was the conference? It
Yeah.
was extremely intense. It was basically the conference was 2 2/3 of days, but it's an open space conference. So for those of you not familiar with that style of conference, it is you come, there's no set agenda other than time slots. And actually, I wish it was intense. I've been in conferences that were in a tent, in a very large tent, but this one, no, this one was inside. And there are spaces set aside. In this case, there were, I think, let's see, 8, 9, there were 10 spaces. So that meant, like 5 or 6 time slots each day. So like basically room for up to 60 to 80 different sessions every day. And I like the way they did it at this one. Sometimes, so what you do in the conference is you basically come, and then there's the period of, great, propose a session. And as a session proposer, what they call a session host, you don't have to know the answer. You don't have to present anything, but you can. So you can either say, hey, here's some cool stuff I've been doing. Here's some stuff I want to talk about. Or I have a question, I have a problem. I would love to hear some solutions, some ideas. And so it is, if you've never been to an open space conference, I highly encourage folks to go. And if you do go, I highly encourage you to suggest a session. Because again, like you don't have to be the expert. In fact, likely what happens is you become the one that draws in the experts, and then you get a bunch of experts in the room. And so, speaking of experts in the room, so people like Woody Zuhl of mob programming fame, and Llewellyn, and Steve Quo, and Paige Watson, and all these folks from the crafter community were all there. James Shore, talking about fast, and Quentin Quartel, who basically came up with it. So, like, all the kind of quote luminaries of Agile, but really of sort of extreme program in the crafter community were there. And you will have the feeling of like, darn, there's like 4 different sessions I want to go to in this time slot. Which is, you just have to get over. But the nice thing is one of the principles of an open space conference is, if you're not actively contributing or learning or getting something out of a session, you get up and you go to another one. Hence the other part of the openness of an open space. And it's interesting because, Mike, you and I have been to open spaces in Northern California, and it's interesting how the space itself affects that sort of openness of people drifting in and out. I remember I was at one open space conference on the East Coast, and the spaces were in rooms with doors that closed, and it felt like it closed off the conference a bit, because it made it harder to move around, to sort of overhear things. There's this interesting tension of that kind of openness, of being able to overhear, oh, that sounds interesting, let me go there, versus really being noisy and I can't focus on the one I'm in. So there's always that tension. But yeah, it was great. I basically ran my TDD game with 3 sessions, and got some amazing ideas for expanding it. So I've been furiously like taking notes and writing up my instructions for the folks who already own the game, to say, hey, here's a new way to play it. And so I'll be hopefully getting that out to folks soon. So yeah, it was definitely, and we were mob programming, ensembling late into the evening, until like 10:30 at night, and so did not get a lot of sleep. So that also contributed to the brain fry. So,
I just want to tag on to what you were saying about don't be shy about. Well, one, definitely go to an open space. Highly recommended. Pretty much my favorite conferences in general. Um, and then the second thing is dive into hosting, even if you don't know squat.
yep.
And that was hard for me to do. I remember the first time I did it, I was just like, I don't know. And
It's
so
intimidating. Yeah.
it is intimidating, and it's like you don't have to have a presentation. A lot of people just have conversations.
Yeah.
So I think the first one I had was something along the lines of like, what are your favorite technical practices
Hmm.
that work in an XP environment, kind of thing.
Right. Right.
And so some people showed up, and we just talked about it. Like there was no presentation, no whiteboard.
Yep.
People just riffed.
Yep.
And then the one I usually do, that I'm pretty much every time I'm in an open space, is a session on what books have blown you away and
Yes.
you want to
Yes.
share with other people.
Yes.
And it's kind of a brutal one because your to read list becomes massive. But it is really fun to hear people round robin talk about
Yep.
books that they've discovered or they rediscovered or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. It's great. I always
So you
remember
don't need to
those
know anything
squat
to host
lists.
that
Yeah.
one, right? You can just
You just
say
have
it, and
to.
your facilitator. That's it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Just have to have a good question.
Yep.
I was going to say something else, and I forgot.
Open space related,
Maybe.
maybe. I was trying to nudge there.
It'll come to me.
Yeah.
Or not. So speaking of books, one of my favorite books, Think Fast and Slow. The author Daniel Kahneman apparently passed away today at the age of
No.
90.
Whoa.
So I'm a little emotional about it because I read a lot of his work and heard a lot of him and saw him speak. I forget where I saw him speak, but he gave just a wonderful talk and just a wonderful person. But he really did a lot to push forward, and some of the stuff in that book has been sort of not quite sort of disproved, but hard to replicate. And some of the things are not. Some of the factors and things like priming and so on have found to be not as strong, but still it really set some of the language that I know you and I use and other folks use for System 1 and System 2, and discussing how people think. And that book is very popular in sort of the communities that we're in terms of Crafter and Agile and XP and so on. So just thinking of him.
Oh, yeah. I remember when I
Yeah.
read that book. I mean, it's a brick. Thinking Fast and Slow. The one thing I remember about that book is that afterwards I felt sort of, maybe depressed isn't the right word, but kind of like, well, damn, what can we do now?
Right.
And then I think there was a Heath Brothers book that kind of answered that question. Like,
Mm.
here's how to fight or how to counteract some of your cognitive biases.
Right.
I think it was called Decisive, but I'm not 100% certain.
That sounds right, but yeah, I'd have to
Yeah,
look it up.
related to decision making. So
Yeah.
that was sort of, if you read Thinking Fast and Slow, you might want to read Decisive afterwards so that you don't come out of it going,
Yeah.
well, damn, there's, how do I fight these biases?
Yeah, I remember I listened to it as an audiobook the first time I actually encountered it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was. I think I did that pretty much when it came out because I felt like I was one of the early adopters of some of the stuff in that book.
Nice.
But let's talk about what we're going to work on. So where did we leave off? So for those of you who are new and haven't watched the previous 24 episodes, what we're working on is an application called Song Themes. And maybe Mike, you want to give us the quick summary.
Sure. So it's basically we're developing a website where we're collecting. So I'm a DJ as a volunteer DJ, community radio station, and I've been collecting themes of songs associated with a certain theme, like Halloween or Christmas or antisocial behavior or you know songs about rain, whatever. And one, I've always wanted to collect it in one place, and so this sort of helps force me on that. The other thing is it's interesting how there's not much out in the world where you can say, I want to see a list of theme songs for a particular theme.
Mm-hmm.
They're either listing like the top 10, and usually they're very popular songs,
Right.
versus the idea is to be more comprehensive. It's not necessarily to be like a comprehensive website, but it's, partially to have a project to work on,
Yes.
to practice some of these techniques. And also I think would be fun to have out in the world. And I know my fellow DJs at the radio station, when they get this, I think they're going to be like, oh yeah, and they're going to start entering more songs. I hope. So.
And I think it's really key. So one of the things that I get asked, not quite every stream, but sometimes it feels that way, is how do I learn X? Where X is Java, Spring Boot, whatever the thing is, and I say, come up with a project that you care about that provides some value to you. Whether it does to others is great. That's an addition, but at least it has to be something that you will use. So if you need a to-do app because none of the to-do apps out there fit your way of thinking or your how you want to do things, great, go write a to-do app. Find something. There's something in your life, in your world, that likely can be made a tiny bit better by writing a custom application for you. And I think that or something that you do, and maybe it's for work, but I always say often the people who are asking are looking for jobs or new developers. Something that you will use, because one of the things that following tutorials and doing what the tutorial says is great. But you really learn by solving problems, by figuring out, oh, I need to do X. So I was playing the Agile Fluency game, and one of the things that it does is it does some calculations, and I'm like, okay, this would make a great little app because it's a little bit of math every single round, and it's kind of you can do it, but it's not. It's like, this should be a little spreadsheet, or this should be a little app. And so, even for like board games, there might be things where it's like, oh, I wish it scored this stuff more easily or something. One of the things I was thinking is a phone app that would use sort of computer vision to, you take a snapshot of the board and it would be able to figure out who won, right? So if you're playing like Ticket to Ride or something like that, instead of manually counting things up, have the app do it. So any of these things, creating an app that you will use, that, because then you will provide feedback to yourself and you will have to then learn how to do things. That's the best. There's nothing like, and it has so many you get all this positive feedback of like, hey, this does things that I want to do, plus you're learning what you need, as opposed to somebody telling you what you should learn. And that's always going to be much better.
Yeah, agreed.
All right, so should we share your screen and take a look at Jira and see what we're up to?
Interesting that on StreamYard it shows an old version of my desktop. Does it do a snapshot?
I don't know.
Because I actually have, I do not have StreamYard on that monitor. I have AssertJ. Yeah, I'm sharing the right monitor.
Well, let's see.
We'll find out.
Nope. You must have shared a browser window.
I don't normally do that. Let me unshare. but not leave studio. There it is. Stop sharing. That is weird. Share screen, share window. Oh, entire screen. Ugh.
Yep.
Yep, I did window. You know, there's like that.
Yeah. I always like, wait, no, it's not window, it's screen.
It's screen. Yeah, it's like why is it the third option too? Okay, my
Because
bad. Hopefully
apparently most
nothing
people
horrible.
don't want to share their full screen. I don't know.
Yeah.
All right, there we go.
There we go. Now we're a little bit
There it
more
is.
sane. So Jira, let's see.
Yeah.
According to our breadcrumb, Jira 72 is next. I ran the
Yes.
tests. Everything passes.
Oh, and if I didn't say hi, Astrid, hi, Astrid. And yes, the grumpy game dev was like, what do we do? How do we do this? It is also, it's not like it's early. It's just, I know my brain hasn't fully woken up. So yes, so one of the, and this is interesting because this actually came up, I forget where, I think I was talking to a coaching client, and this is sort of the danger of learning, is as a novice. So one of the issues that novices have, and it's not their fault, it's simply the level of experience and expertise, is you see something and you're like, oh, that's useful, let me do that. And this is how sort of design patterns get out of hand. It's like, oh, let me use the command pattern here and the strategy pattern here and the adapter pattern here, and actually they didn't really need any of those. And you end up with code that's more complicated than expected. And so the situation here with the illegal argument exception is kind of the way I think about it now is, if you're validating user input, then you probably want something like the result class that we created to provide messages back to the user. Otherwise, you probably want to lean towards throwing an exception, because that means you need to handle something that went wrong. So if you are not processing user input, if you're doing things like reading information from a database and there's some IO exception, don't wrap it and return some kind of result class. There you actually want to throw an exception. But if you're handling input and you're validating it and the validation says there's something wrong, then that's a good opportunity to use a result-like class. And so what we've done here is, when we started doing the parsing of the header, maybe let's go to that last one, the assert that illegal argument.
Yeah, this
Take
has
a
got
look
to
at
be the
where,
one.
yeah. So basically, we exception thrown when header column count does not match data column count. So if we've got so the idea is that the data needs to match the number of column headers, because we're paying attention now to column headers. And we're throwing an illegal argument exception, which was actually a mistake, because we already have a result class and we should actually be returning a failure result as opposed to throwing an exception. So that's what we're going to have to change.
And this is the header with 4 columns, and we're passing in 6 columns of data.
Right. So looking at this test fresh, it took me a little while to orient myself as to what was being passed into the column mapper. And so I wonder if we should pull that out into a string and call it header or header row.
I was thinking the same thing.
Hey, Benny, welcome.
Header or header row? What do you think?
I kind of like header row. Yeah.
New column mapper, header row.
I also feel like, even though 29 is throwing an exception, the column we're asking for, we should ask for a column that actually exists in the header row.
Oh, instead of song title?
Yeah, yeah. I'm sure we copied and pasted that from somewhere, but
Probably. Let's
it should at least appear valid.
do
Yeah.
3.
Yeah.
And then let's rerun the test.
Yeah.
Make sure
That should still fail.
it should still pass.
I mean, it should still pass because we are throwing the
Right.
exception. Yes.
Yeah. It'll pass by failing.
Right.
And then I'm had a similar thing, like reading this. I just wonder if columns. No, I think columns is okay as a name.
So since we're doing TDD, we should say what behavior do we actually want?
Right.
Right. So what should it do? This is what it does, but what should it do? Is basically our and I want to highlight this. I do this all the time when you're doing TDD. There are times when you are going to change existing behavior with any non-trivial piece of code that you're building upon. You're going to change behavior, and in this case, the test already exists, which means you change the test to say, here's the new behavior that I want. So so we basically, instead of asserting that it's going to throw an exception, we want it to return some kind of result, and we can say what we want and then make it happen.
Right. So just start changing.
Yeah, let's just start changing.
Okay. There. Oh, interesting. Does it even return a result?
Well, it doesn't return a result because it threw an exception.
Right. So it's not even at the point yet where. Well, let me rephrase it. The code is not such that it can even.
Right, and so we might have to do some refactoring to get it to what we want. So what we'd like is it to return a result. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, would we? Well, change signature first. I guess depends how many people are using, whether it's being used in other tests or just write the test.
So we generally
a result.
Yeah, so we sort of have two ways. So whenever we change it, whenever we want a different result, no pun intended, not that result. Whenever we want a different return value, a different return type, we generally have two options. We can change the existing method, or we can create a new one that does that, and then
Wrap it.
and then basically wrap it, and then inline everywhere so that the callers get the right result. So we probably do want to look at what are who is calling.
Yeah, there's only one. A bunch of tests.
Not too many.
Oh, and production code.
Well, I would hope production code.
So then we would do something like this. It's a horrible name, but it's not going to live for long. Something like that. Create that method. Have that method call extract column.
Right.
And then it would. Oh, I can't accept this phone call right now.
Yeah.
So so then the other tests, the tests that are calling extract column string, keep working. And then when we get to the point where we need to inline, it will auto inline, but it won't.
We probably don't want to inline it. I think in some cases that will work, but I think in this case, we'll just have to change some code line by line, because the song parser is using it a lot, and that process is, those lines of code are going to need to change.
Yeah, significantly.
To be somewhat different.
Yeah.
So there are a couple of ways we could do this. One way is just write a new method. Another way is uh, write the code that we want in the test and then extract it and move it.
Hmm. Let's try that approach for a change
Yeah.
because we've done the other one so many times.
So let's revert all that to being correct in terms of returning a string. Yeah. Um, and since we know that that is going to throw an exception, we can wrap that code. I think you can get rid of. I don't know.
I know. I'm going to go back.
Okay.
We can get rid of this.
We'll probably want to keep the message because the message is going to
Yeah.
come from the result failure. So let's delete just the 3132 and then
I think let's do that for now and then blow it all away at once.
yeah, we can probably get rid of 31 and 32 at this point and just leave the message. And then we can wrap that line of code 29 with a try block.
What is surrounded? It Control Control T
T, yes.
and try catch.
And so we know which exception we're going to catch.
Yep. Oops. Close this window so I get a bit more space.
And so if we do throw the exception, what do we want?
In this case, we want to create a result object.
Right.
That we can then test against.
Right. So there's a couple of static methods on result.
There are. Okay, let's see. Ah. It's a single message.
Right.
Actually, will it always be? I guess we will test for that when we get to it. Oh.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, scoping.
Yes.
Is my O.
Yes. That's fine. Why don't we call it, instead of failure, call it result, because that's eventually what we're going to want. And we can now sketch out what we want from our assertion.
Oh, I forgot. You got to be patient with.
Yeah, I never wait.
Oh, the scope. Right. The scope is.
Yeah.
Scope dot. Really, there's no method. Oh, because of the scope.
Because it's not in scope. So if you want, before we write the assert, we can pull it into we can pull it into scope.
Yeah. Is there a automatic? No.
You can split into declaration, then move the declaration up.
Yeah. Yeah. I was looking for a one-step.
Yeah, there would be a one step if you were trying to reference it, or if it was already referenced, and then I could say bring it into scope, but it wasn't already used. So
Right.
right. So that's what we'd like.
Why is this red?
Because it's not definitively assigned.
Ah.
So what we want is 31. We want to convert that to a result, right? Because we want this block of code to always return a result, because this is eventually going to be the code that we move.
Oh, interesting. So the song.
Yeah,
What?
so we haven't
What?
because our result, the only time we've used it is for songs, and we have not generified it to return arbitrary information. So we might have to put this on hold and go fix result.
Right.
Now this is a case of we could have done a bit more planning and a little more design work, and maybe realized earlier that we needed to have a more flexible result class. We knew we were going to need a more flexible one at some point. Um, and so we could have thought a little bit more ahead and said, oh, before we even bother with this, let's go and generify result. I would just
Comment it out.
comment out the
line.
the whole set there.
When you say whole set, what do you mean? The
I
entire.
mean basically line 32.
Well, we did 32. Then, I guess it's just a warning.
Yeah.
It won't. Will it compile? Yeah, it will compile. Maybe not.
Well, we can run the tests. If not, we can
Yeah.
just assign it to something. Yeah. So
Yeah.
we can basically just do equals null there.
That'll just be a runtime exception.
Yeah. So.
Well, hey, it worked.
Yeah. That doesn't make me comfortable.
No. Because we're not checking the message.
Let's I'm uncomfortable in making this. Well, actually, let's disable it because it's not really a valid test yet.
Yeah.
And then we'll pay attention to disable tests.
How many disabled tests we got? Just that one, it looks like.
We've got a bunch of others, which we will have to look at.
They're there.
We have a couple where it says enable once we return result failure for mismatch column count. We should add that comment to our current disable because I think there are several that are basically the same issue. Yep. All right. I would say let's do a commit, even though I think we've only just modified this test. It's probably good to make sure we have a clean slate to go back to if we go wrong on this next refactor. I think we could just say we started something.
Yeah, so I was thinking started moving extract. I'll fix the spelling in a second. Moving the extract column.
Hey there, Tone Fan Van.
Towards
welcome from YouTube.
Cool.
Looks good.
Okay. So you want to do a pair refactoring to modify result?
Yes. So we want to see how much IntelliJ is going to help us in generifying the result class. So let's go to result. You can probably make that if you double click on the editor. Yeah.
Interesting.
Double clicking doesn't expand it?
No, double clicking, that's as far as it goes.
That's weird. That's different than on the Mac.
Really?
Yeah, on the Mac, double click basically expands it to the maximum size.
Yeah, I'm double clicking. There might be some other.
Can you right click and say huh. I don't see anything offhand.
There's not a make full screen.
Now I'm gonna have to go look. All right, well, let's just maximize it manually.
Yeah. Maximize -1.
So let's see if it gives us any options if we click on the result class name for we actually want to bring up the refactor menu.
Nope, the other
No,
one.
it's all the keys. It's all the keys plus T. It's the
Oh,
really annoying one.
right,
That one.
right. But this only is a subset of what's in the menu.
Yeah, and I was just seeing if it offered that. I don't know if it has that kind of refactoring.
Let me look at the menu. The menu usually has more.
Raw types to generics. Convert raw types to generics. What does that do? That might do it. I don't know where it is on the menu. There's a refactoring called convert raw types to generics. So you might have to bring up the actions.
Yeah, I thought I did, but it didn't come up. Convert.
Just type generics.
Did you say convert?
Yeah, so the full so say convert raw types. Why is that not showing up for you?
Do you think this include disabled actions?
That's fine. It's going to include ones that are not available in this context.
Right.
I don't know why that's not available for you. Are you let's escape out of this window. Are you in
What's the latest? Am I far behind?
Oh, you know what? I think this is actually part of a plugin. So there's some plugins that JetBrains offers for more refactorings, and I think this one is coming from that plugin.
Mm.
Do you want to install that plugin?
Sure.
So these are if you go to the plugins.
Where is it? Under
Uh,
tools
no,
or window?
no, plugins under your settings.
Oh, Jesus. Brain. For some reason, I thought it was part of tools. Okay, so here.
So if you click on Marketplace because you want to search for new plugins, and you search for Java refactorings, and there's the first one.
Cool. Install.
Yep.
Provides convert raw types to generics. Remove
Yep.
middleman.
Yep.
Replace temp with query. And wrap method return value. Nice.
Yes. So wrap method return value might be something we also try.
Looks
So these
like
are basically the
itself.
more sort of experimental, I guess, refactorings.
What the heck happened here? Why is it not?
Did you restart the IDE?
No.
It should have offered
Didn't
an
ask me to.
option. Can we go back to the plugins
Yeah.
and click on installed? Oh, that may not require additional. It may not require a restart. Okay.
Okay.
So
But what's weird is what
looks like
happened.
it got confused about. Let's open up the Maven menu. I don't know why it keeps hiding it for you.
It keeps hiding it from me. That's driving me
Yeah,
crazy.
I don't understand that.
Action, I presume.
It's going to be under, well, yeah, you can bring it up that way.
And then let's check the settings. Maybe there's a way to say. Says. Looks like it's there because it's got removed from sidebar as if it's going to always be there.
Yeah, maybe can you right click on that? Does it give you the same menu? Not there, but on the all the way on the sidebar.
Oh, over here.
Right click. Yeah. What's view mode? No, it's pinned. I don't understand that. All right. If we click the refresh button, the little circled arrows.
There we go. Cleaned it up.
Yeah, there are all these little problems that AssertJ has where often that fixes it. All right. We can minimize it. And so let's go to the refactor menu again, and it's the last option. So we want to drop obsolete casts. Yeah, I don't think we have any. Preserve raw arrays. Who cares? Leave object parameterized types raw. Okay, sure. I don't know if this is going to do what we want.
We can just try, but I just grabbed this just.
Yeah, I think we'll
find out.
Try it.
Okay. Did it do anything? Nope. Looks like it didn't do anything.
Let's try it again. It may only be suitable. It may only be set up for certain types of things. Like this is where IntelliJ's documentation falls down. Is like it doesn't give us the full parameters of what it's going to consider.
Right.
Because it basically says transform existing code that does not use generics into generics aware code. But that's like, okay, what are things that it considers not using generics, and what is generics aware? Let's try perform exhaustive search.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. You want to try
Um,
preview just that for
no,
giggles?
let's just do a refactor.
Okay.
It'll either do something or it won't.
Believe nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, we'll have to do it the old-fashioned way. Because what it's supposed to do, if you look at the example that it applies, which is insufficient, basically, if you had a list that was not generified, it will generify it. So I guess it's taking usages of things that aren't generic and generifying them. So
got it.
Yeah. This is a refactoring that would be nice to have, but we'll just have to do it manually. All right. So what we want then is let's just generify it. So the result class has two types. It has the type, although I guess really it only has one. We could consider the failure messages another type, but they're always going to be strings, at least in our usage. So we pretty much want to generify it based on, right now it's a song. So we'd like to promote song to be the generic. So
meaning here.
Well, everywhere song exists in this class, we're going to have to change to basically a T or some other named generic type.
Looks like it's there's song and then there's list of songs.
Right, but that's still list. That would still be list of T.
List of T, right? So those are the two places it would be, from what I can see.
So let's
Would you mind if I move the two successes next to each other?
that sounds like a plan.
Okay. And you were going to say something before I cut you off.
So what we want to do is we want to end up with so wherever we currently use a static type, so our static types are going to have to change slightly. But I think right now what we'll do is we'll focus on just making everything backwards compatible. So let's go ahead and add the type parameter to our public class result. So on line 10,
Private. Oh,
on line 10,
got it.
let's put, what do we want to call the type? For now, let's call it T. I can't think of a better name.
Okay.
We'll come up with a better name. So that's still backwards compatible, and we now see that IntelliJ is complaining about all those results being generic. And what we'd like to do is change the return types, and let's see if IntelliJ will help us on that. Will it suggest a type? We would want an alt enter on that. Yeah, no, it's not going to do anything like that. So let's just change it so that this is, so this success will take a song and therefore return a result of song.
Like that.
Yeah, although actually we'd like that to be T and for the parameter to be T.
Like that.
Yes. And then we'll want to change 30 to be similar. And since we have generics here, we're going to need to add one more type parameter to the static method. So in between static and results on both 26 and 30, we're going to add another angle bracket T.
What's the multi-select? Don't tell me. Alt J. So could I do Alt J here? Oh no, it's not going to grab them. Okay. What am I adding again?
You'd have to include static, but there's only two, so we can just type it. So you want basically an angle bracket T angle bracket. Yep. And same thing for the other one.
And we're not dealing with failure at the moment, just success.
Right, because failure, technically, we don't really need to generify, even though it's complaining about it. We probably will at some point. So this should not affect our tests. This should have been a pure refactoring.
Didn't like something.
Right, because in this case, it's relying on the type. So what we can do is we can cast it. So let's cast 33. So let's make, instead of just result, make it result song. Yep. And now there's sort of an implicit loss or cast and so on. That's why it's complaining about parse-all. But now at least it knows the type of songs.
What do you think about running all tests?
We can. I'm mostly concerned about compile errors than
Yeah.
anything else.
I don't
So
think
I
all
don't I don't feel the
really.
need to.
Yeah. Cool.
All right. So let's go back to result. And we probably want to change now line 13. So basically we want to now start changing anywhere we have song to change it to T.
Right.
You can make that final if you want. It's sort of,
Well, it's complaining that it may be final.
yeah, it's basically saying you could make this final if you want.
Oh,
You
I
don't
see.
have to. But I wouldn't do that because I think that's off. That's a tangent.
Tangent. Yeah. Okay. So we got that one.
So basically, anywhere there's a song reference, a song object reference, or
Like there.
song type reference, we need to do T. Right now, you'll pretty much just find any compiler errors in this code will do that. Will show up because now it truly is a compiler because we changed the internal type that it must be T. All right, let's run our tests. And again, mainly I'm saying run tests in lieu of compiling because it does both.
Right.
All right. And so we probably want to change our internal name of songs to be more
Right.
generic.
So
So
what else?
right now this will hold either songs or
Anything
strings.
or strings?
Well, strings, yeah, because the column data is also going to use result. So and that's stored just as a string. So like you said, it's basically anything.
Right. I have no idea what to call it. So when it's songs, it's songs. When it's not songs, what is it? It's just going to be some success message. I mean, for me, it seems like
It's just value or values.
values. Well, values for 13.
So the idea of this
Values
result
for
is that when it's successful, it's a container for what is it that we actually want as a result of whatever we're doing. So when we're saying parse all songs, it's a container for songs. When we say parse this column, it's a container for the column data. And if we said parse something else, it would be the container for something else.
Whoop.
And we're going to want to change all the parameters.
Yeah.
Which unfortunately doesn't extend to all the static methods that are basically factory methods. So
Right.
we'll
Whereas
want
this has to be value.
right.
But that's you're thinking this one.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that it didn't pick up that one, but
Right.
so yeah, so now we'll just change them one by one. So anywhere that song exists, we want to change it to value.
And then
And
this
we
one
will
would
have
be
to rename that, but not just yet. Let's change everything internally first.
got it. Okay, so then the other internal was song. This will be value. Is there anything else? I think we're good internally.
So what does it offer to fix for us on line 25? Yeah, let's do that. And you'll basically do that for all the other ones that it's complaining about.
Oh, wait a second. This is failure.
So failure, though, is still a generic type because it's gonna hold only the failure messages, but it's still of the same type because it's still a container for whatever it is. So we still need to generify those.
Okay, but we have to do that by turning this into a T.
No, no, no.
No?
It's still holding on to string. It's just the result object that gets returned is a generified type. So we do the same thing we
Ah,
did to the other static methods. It's still T result T.
got
Even
it.
though it's not containing T's, it's still that's its type.
And this one's a manual one we have to do.
Yeah. And you'll need the T in front of it as well.
Oh, right.
And then you can auto fix those or just add the brackets to the 33 and 37.
Oh, right. Now it'll give that as a suggestion.
Yep.
Whereas before it wouldn't.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So we should have gotten rid of all the all those warnings. So now I think we are fully generified. Other than the query method songs, everything else is referring to values. So let's run our tests. And everything still works.
Yep.
I would say let's do a commit and then we can rename songs.
Is that a word?
That is a word.
All good?
Yep.
Okay.
All right. I think we could just rename it.
I just want to see one of the tests because I'm
Yep.
like, we're gonna make this. Oh, you're gonna make the test harder to read. So right now we're only putting songs into it, and that's why it's called songs. But because we're generifying it,
Mhm.
it could be other things.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess there's no way to make it. We have to change it from songs to values.
Yeah, it just means it becomes a more generic container, just like a list.
Right. So then rename this guy to values.
Right.
Is that gonna have a collision? Well, one's method, one's field, so it should be
Yeah.
fine. Amazing. We're already at the 1 hour point.
Mhm. Do you want to take a break or do you want to finish generifying the code?
Are we close?
Um, I don't know how many usages there are of result. So how many
Oh, right.
usages are there of result? Yeah, we're not near done. We've got to basically change all those.
Right.
Now here is where actually the generify might help because now we've actually generified results, and so now the usages of it might be available. So we could take a crack at the refactor.
From a usage point in prod or test?
No, I think we just do. We try it
From
from
with it
here,
from here. Okay.
and if not, then we can go to a call site. But let's see what happens. It said no occurrence is found. So let's go to.
Oh, wait a second. Wait a second.
That's the values we changed. The
Oh,
songs to values.
right, right. Maybe we should. Oh, well, too late now.
We can do a commit and then try this next step because we were going to do a commit anyway.
Yeah.
make sure you check. So
Control K, I know.
yeah, Control K.
What did we change? Oh, we changed
We
the
changed songs to
size.
values. Yeah.
Yeah. Instead of gentrification.
Yes, that would be a very different thing. So let's go to a call site, a usage site, and see if it can help us generify from there. Let's pick a test.
How about that one?
Sure.
Or a column mapper? Because
No,
it's
let's
close to
go
what
with
we're.
that. Let's go with that one. Yeah, so let's try that. You'll have to bring down the refactor menu.
Yeah. And then from here to convert raw types.
Yes.
Where's the, is it,
So in the status, it said raw use of parameterized class result, but it didn't actually do anything.
yeah.
Um,
I had the selection on here. What if it's on this? No occurrences found.
yeah, it still might not have enough information. I'm not sure. And this is again sort of what's frustrating is it doesn't tell you enough about what because I would expect that uh, if you were on the result where you are now and you invoked it, that it would do something. But what did alt enter to give us? Yeah, just the expect inspection. All right, we'll have to do it manually, and this might require us to simply just do a global search and replace. But we can do that after the break if you'd like.
Yeah, let's do a break. That's a
Yeah.
good point.
All right, so we'll take a 5-minute break. When we come back, we will do some search and replace and fall back to that to get our result object to respect the concrete type that we want, and then we'll continue from there. So we'll
New
see
bumper
you.
sticker. Respect the concrete type.
All right, so we'll see you in 5. So as a reminder, folks, I run a Discord community where we have a bunch of folks who are interested in and talking about all the stuff that we do here on stream and that I do on my stream. So the best way to find out about that is to go to ted.dev/discord, and you'll find a link to the some information about it and a link to the Discord, and you are welcome to join. We also run a weekly book club. We're currently reading The Programmer's Brain, and as I say, it's never too late to join. So if you join the Discord and you're interested in joining us for our Sunday discussions where we do it over Zoom, just send me a direct message and I will give you access to the private channel that has all the past recordings and transcripts and chats and things like that. And that's available also free, no charge. So join us. If you're not interested in the current book, when we're done with this book, we move on to another one, and you can be involved in that selection process. All right.
So do we just,
yeah.
sorry, keep going.
No, I was gonna say, go ahead.
Do we just start saying which one we want
Well, I think we
at
can.
this point?
I think we can use search and replace to do this, so we don't have to do it manually every single place we do it.
Ah, right.
So Benny asks, how far are we along in the current book? We are in chapter 6. I don't know how far away that is through the book.
Feels like halfway.
Probably close to half, yeah.
Yeah.
But you can join at any time. There's no even if you haven't read it, even if you don't feel like you have to catch up, even if you just want to sit and listen, that's totally fine.
I would like to do this to all files though, not just this one.
So replacing files, Control-Shift-R.
Yeah, Shift-R, yep. Now all of these will be song because we haven't done anything else yet.
Correct. I would relax your search. I think that might not find all instances. That assumes that we are
naming it result.
naming the variable result. Yeah.
Relax in that way.
Because we also actually do want to change, at least right now, I think we want to change all of the method return values as well to be that.
Looks like replace all is not going to work. We're going to have to do it one at a time.
Why is replace all not going to work?
Well, I don't think we want to change Jira.
Well, so you can change the file mask in the upper right so that we're only looking at Java files.
Ah. Why is that PHP?
And you'll want to drop the result from the replacement. And I don't know if you have
this one.
I don't know if you have a space at the end of result.
Yeah, I think we need.
So you want that, and then you want to replace it with a space.
Yeah. But this one. But the thing is, we got something here called song result, which we don't want to change. We want this one. We want this one, not this one.
Right. So if you click on the W in the upper right next to the CC.
Whole word. Yeah. There we go. Now, other than the comment, which is fine, I think we're good to go. Just doing a quick scan. You agree?
I think the comment, the first one that's in green, if you click on that, you can exclude that one. I think you just need to hit the delete key.
Really?
Yeah.
Nope.
That's interesting. That's what it does on Mac. Well, that one's harmless.
It doesn't
So
matter. It's a test
yeah,
with just in the middle
yeah,
of writing anyway,
yeah, that's
so we
fine.
can. I'm feeling like it's okay.
So yeah, let's do a replace all and see what happens. Let's. Yep,
Whoop, compiler.
that's fine. I kind of expected that we'd get at least one. So here, this is now it will work. If you
Oh, rerun it.
well, you need to click on the red TSV song parser. And let's take a look at what's going on. So F2. What's it complaining about? Cannot infer functional interface type. Yeah, because it didn't generify because we did the W. There's some places where it didn't generify the list of results. So we'll need to replace those separately.
Manually or?
With a search and replace. So
How
you can
much is it
copy. No, we don't want to change that. We want, so the problem is you see on line 63 where it's list result.
gonna?
That hasn't been generified, and we want to generify that. So we want to replace list of result with list of result of song.
Of song like this?
No.
Sorry, I'm not correct.
So bring up the replace in all files. Nope. Yep. And did you copy it to the buffer?
I wasn't sure what to copy. My copy.
Copy list of result. So when I say of in this context, I mean angle bracket. It's a list of result. So a
Okay,
result of song is a result angle bracket song.
got it.
But we want to do search and replace of that with basically list of what you've got in the two in the second there. So put list in front of that. No, in front.
What is going on? There we go.
So list open angle bracket, and at the end close angle bracket with no space. Right.
That's
So what
not
we're saying
binding.
is it's a list. It's not a list of general results. It's a list of results of this specific type.
Right. Got it.
And you'll want to uncheck the W because it's not a word. Yeah. And let's replace all. So now it can infer, right? So the problem is it's like it was a map of Boolean to list of result, and I don't know what result holds, so I can't infer what the type was.
So now rerun the test.
Yeah.
See if there's any other compile errors.
Right.
There is.
Let's jump to that one because that was the one that we ran into before. We didn't actually fix that one.
Oh, this is our new test.
Right. So what's it saying the problem was? Oh, it can't find rerun. Yeah, so that's a problem where it required an import because that class had not imported song previously.
Right.
All right, all our tests pass. We've I believe we've generified all of our, or at least most of our code, perhaps not all of it. So let's do a commit. So I think there's generified usages of. Yep. So let's.
Should we enable this one and make this one work, or?
Um,
do we have more preparation to do?
I think that's it. So yeah, let's give it a shot. So in this case, it's not going to be result of song
Uh,
on line 30.
right.
Right, because
So
we either get a string or we get a failure. What are you stuck on?
I want to look at result again
Okay.
to make sure I understand what you're saying. Um, it returns a string if success.
In this case, yes, because extract column, if we look at what happens on line 32, currently it returns a string.
Right.
And it also throws an exception if there's something wrong with the mapper.
Right.
If it can't find it, it actually returns an empty string. So there's a case where there's basically two different cases where we're going to want to return a failure message, where the things didn't match or I couldn't find that column. But let's start with making the test work and
So now,
then fail.
yeah. So the thing I'm confused about is, isn't the type of this different depending on whether it's here or this part of the path
No,
or this part?
no.
No?
Why? So why do you think it's different?
Well, you were saying this one will return a string,
Well, it will return a result of string,
a result of string. So
right? So instead of
then
result of song, it's going to return a result of string. In other
for
words, the
both.
type that we're defining here is if it works, what do we get? If it's a failure, then it doesn't matter what the container holds because it doesn't it's failed, so it can't hold anything.
Right. Oh, wait a second. Can't hold anything, but I thought we were as far as values go.
It will
But
not
failure,
hold any it will not hold any success values if it fails.
right.
But it's still of the type, right? It's basically like saying it's an empty optional, right?
Are you
It's an
sure about
optional
that?
string, but it right, think about an optional.
No, I know, but I
Yeah,
thought we had didn't we have a point where it's like, here it failed and here's what you gave us? Or is it here what you gave us not coming from the result?
it's not coming from the results.
It's coming from something else. Okay.
It's coming from the failure messages. So this is what's sometimes referred to as an either in more functional languages. It either has the successful results, in which case the failures will be empty, or it returns failures, in which case the success stuff is empty.
Got it.
So whereas an optional holds either 1 or 0, or a list holds a bunch or nothing, this holds either, right? It has to be true that either you have the successful results or you have failure results. It must be one of those.
Any value in calling this either result or either?
Um, Either presumes that you can specify the types of both options. Here, we're basically saying it's always failure messages are always going to be strings.
Got it. And then
If we wanted a true either, I would pull in a library.
got it. And for us, the result, the failure messages can be a list of strings.
Yes.
So in this particular case, it's just a string type. Oh
So
no, wait a second. The generification is this.
the type we're
Yeah, never mind.
specifying is the
Yeah.
success type.
Right.
And so
Not the failure
now
type.
that
Right.
might provide us an indication that we want to change our T into success. So let's try that out for size. So in the result
Oh,
class, rename the T.
this T?
That T. and let's call it success.
Uppercase?
All uppercase.
All uppercase.
All uppercase is the convention for
Oh, screaming cap.
generified types. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, I don't think I've ever used anything other than a single letter for generified types before. This is new.
Yeah, there's nothing. I mean, it basically says it just has to be an identifier.
Right.
Tradition says uppercase, although I've seen places where people don't do it uppercase. Um, but this sort of uppercase tells you that it's not a variable or it's not a
A class
class
name. Yeah.
name. It's a in this context we want to refer to the same thing.
Interesting. Okay.
So it's interesting that it didn't rename all of the T's.
Interesting. You're
And I
right.
don't and I find that uh, uh, I think that's a bug in IntelliJ that it didn't rename all the T's. So there's the static methods where it didn't rename those T's. Now you could say, well, it could return a different generified type for those static methods. So all right, let's rename the T's then in our static methods.
Manually or
No, use shift rename.
sorry.
Use rename.
Okay.
Because it at least renames all the ones in that method call, and you
In
have to
that
do the same.
context, yeah.
Yeah.
Then we got this. This one
Yeah, those as well.
stays. Oh, but success for failure?
The type is still result of success.
Got it.
Yeah, this is where generics get. Often we only are we're mostly only consumers of generics. Where it gets difficult is creating classes that are generic classes. Make sure you hit enter. Yep. Let's run it again. That should fix the problem. Oh. Oh, that's okay because
Oh, this is the
we're
one
not
we were in the middle
we're
of
not done
reviewing.
with that. So
Right.
let just comment that out just to make sure that all the other tests pass. Okay, great.
And they do.
um, so yeah, so let's get back to what we were doing. So we have so our type in this context, it's a list of results. Sorry, it's a result of string, which means when we create our result with a success, we need to pass it in the correct type, which in this case is going to be a string.
You mean here?
Mm-hmm. Well, we already have the string. We just got it on the line above. Right, so we're
Oh,
writing
column.
code that if it succeeds, it's the one that it extracted. Yep. What's going on?
I was just saying it was a red thing. I was just curious what it was
Oh, it
complaining
was
about.
only red for a second. It wasn't actually red.
Ah,
So this is we can now, if we want, get rid of the null assignment. And I don't think we need to comment anymore. So this is the code that we'll eventually want to push into our column mapper.
right.
Because this continues to pass, and that's what this is doing now, is it's translating the exception into a result.
Let's rename the test then, huh?
Yep.
So then would we extract this into a method, push the method into
Mm-hmm.
the column mapper?
Yeah.
Okay, so give it a new name. Again, this is short-term name, right?
So what I tend to do, the temporary name that I often use is I basically say whatever the old method was, and then I say with whatever the new return value is. So in this case, it would be extract column with result.
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right. um,
Move.
Now we should be able to do a move. Yeah.
Do we keep the not null there, or?
Yeah, it's fine. It's not going to be null. And there's only one choice. And then we run our tests.
And it doesn't
Run
like the
it,
null.
just run it again. So the
Oh,
problem is sometimes when it moves stuff around, it doesn't do an import.
oh, I
So when
see.
it brought over not null, it didn't do an import. Previously, when it introduced song, it didn't do an import. But because we have auto import on, as soon as you open up the file, it does the import and everything works.
Got it. Do we want to keep that not null?
Sure, why not?
Okay.
It actually tells IntelliJ that this will never return a null, which can help it with some of its analysis. All right. Um, we probably want to, and maybe we should have done this before we did the move. We probably want to parameterize the method a bit.
Yeah, I was just wondering about that. So should we inline it and then?
No, I think we can introduce parameter here. It's fine. It's just in a different place.
Hmm.
So what are we inline? What are we introducing as a parameter to our new extract column?
Actually, we want to.
Yeah, we want to introduce that as our parameter because that's what extract column actually takes is that parameter. So we need to push that parameter out.
Column name.
Uh-huh. All right. And so where do we get the failure message from?
We're not testing for it at the moment, but we get
Uh,
it from result.
oh, we should actually be testing for that. So
Yeah.
let's test for that.
Contains exactly.
Mm-hmm. It should just contain the one.
Actually, would we do characterization test? No, in this case, we're trying to.
We know exactly what it's hard coded in the code, so we can copy it
Yeah.
back. So that should still pass. It does.
And it does. Yep.
Um, so now we can generalize our code and say, where do we actually get that failure message from?
Oh, it's coming from the exception.
Mm-hmm. So let's do that. Yep. All right.
Okay. Any potential refactorings here? I'm not.
Well, there's no point in
Out of me.
refactoring this because a bunch of this is going to go away.
Oh, right, because we're gonna. Yeah,
Because
yeah.
right now what we're doing is
Parallel
maybe
change.
we want to move this method closer to the extract column method.
Did it not move?
No, it hasn't been moving. You've just been scrolling.
Interesting. It's Control Shift arrow. Darn it.
You're too far.
Yep, I'm going back down. I can't see. One more. This calls this guy.
So what you doing?
I was just thinking about what the next step was.
Okay. So what is the next step?
Well, we can't do inline because I remember we talked earlier about that, about how this one auto fix. We're gonna have to manually do it.
Right. Right.
So I guess we just start manually doing it. Actually,
I
should
I
we
think
do it?
I think we just basically start manually fixing the callers, and then we can get rid of. Then we can inline the other way. We can inline the current extract column into the one that returns result, and then we'll be able to get rid of the
And then
exception.
rename extract column back to with
Right.
result.
Yep.
Back to extract column.
Yep.
Got it. Start with the test first, you think?
I think we should start with the commit.
Oh,
And then
that's a good idea.
we can fix stuff.
Right. So we finished generifying. That's a horrible word. Generifying, maybe?
Yeah,
Is that good?
That's great.
Okay. Committed. Ready to roll.
All right, so let's start fixing our tests.
Do you think start with the test first, or does it not matter? I was leaning towards starting with the test first, but I guess
Yeah, let's start with the one and only test.
really, there's only one test of extract column. Interesting. So now we want this one to be with.
Yep.
And it's going to need a result.
Yep.
Type string. So now the name column.
So this is
Fix the
interesting.
error.
For now, I mean, I'd probably rename the variable to result.
Yeah.
And then it's the result dot values because we've got to pull it out of the container. I don't think it's going to be empty. I think it's going to consist of an empty string because that's our current behavior. And this behavior is going to change because we're going to want to return a failure result for this one as well.
Right, because we're not even testing for failure result.
Yeah, we're basically saying if you ask for a column that doesn't exist, you get an empty string. Because that's what we decided. But I think now that we have a result class, I think we're probably going to want to return a failure. But for now, let's just remain backwards compatible.
Okay, so if we run the test, this should fail because it's no longer empty.
Right.
And one has to use the correct shortcut for running tests.
That helps. Yes. So it failed as expected, and now we can make it pass.
So what would be the right way to say contains exactly?
Yeah, contains
That?
exactly an empty string. Yeah.
Okay. Okay,
All right. Great.
one down.
So I think when we were writing these column mapper tests, we were mainly doing it to deal with the edge cases.
Should we make a note that we might want to do more testing on this front, or
Um,
do we wait
so
till it rears its head?
I think we should I think we should. I don't want to disable it, but I think we should make it. We should definitely make a note that when we ask for when we ask column mapper for a column that doesn't exist, it should return a failure result.
Let me just get the wording right again.
Alrighty.
Okay.
So let's go fix all the other usages.
Okay. Let's interesting. What happens if I yeah, it's gonna replace it. I thought so.
Yeah, tab replaces enter inserts.
So now if we do this, we have to change the extract here. Values, plural? I mean, it's the only thing we have. Something's wrong. Probably my comprehension.
Why are you thinking that something's wrong? Why do you think something's
Oh, the red underline is making me
well, right, because
question.
values returns potentially many. So depending on what you're trying to do,
Right, if we're extracting a column, parse song, this is supposed to be just one song. In this case, it's never
the
returning
result is
many.
a generic container.
Right. So like get first.
If we want to be backward compatible, get first, yes.
So if we rerun, okay. Now just do the same thing for part of me is like, do I want to keep doing this one at a time or not? Yeah, I think I'm gonna do it one at a time. This is gonna start getting a little hard to read. What? So now we're in mechanical mode. Not sure what I hit to jump. Oh, there we go.
Hey there, Bash. We're programming in Java, so we don't use um, the wrong way to capitalize stuff.
Now I want to go look at the chat.
Methods start with lowercase letters, as it should be.
What's the language that doesn't do that? Is it C# is the main one?
C#.
Yeah.
Yeah. They basically wanted to differentiate themselves a bit from Java, so where it's like, we're going to do things differently for no reason. Right. And so that way you're going to get always confused about whether this is a method or a class. Just goes to show people can get used to anything, no matter how horrible it is.
So I didn't run all the tests. Maybe run the tests. I think that was the last one. We'll go check in a second.
Mm-hmm.
So we go back to.
I assume you realize I'm not actually bashing C#, despite your name.
Oh, what's their bash 1750?
Yeah.
So now here there should be only one usage. Oh, still two.
Did we handle the themes? I don't remember us handling the themes.
Let me go back.
No, in the
parser.
song parser.
Extract themes. Oh, this method is passing in a column mapper. So here.
Right.
Well, I guess I'll just start typing here and see what it complains about.
So what that does is it means instead of getting a stream of strings, we basically get a stream of results. And so what we want to do is change our filter to say we only want to pass through if it's success. So before we were looking for empty strings to ignore.
Right.
And now we want to look for, we only want to keep is success. So yeah, you can delete that and we can replace it with result is success.
That one.
Yep. Now that's mapped results. So what we, and I don't know why IntelliJ is not showing that. It should be showing that after we get a stream of results, we still have a stream of results. So we can't convert that to a stream of strings. So we need to now pull out the values and flat map them.
So what, here do a flat map?
No, after we've filtered for is success, now we want to flat map. And we want to pull out the values.
A little bit more detail.
So results : values.
Ah. And it's not happy.
What type is it?
It's not showing the type here, which is weird.
Yeah, I don't understand why it's not showing the type there. It knows exactly what the type is, which is a stream of result of. Oh, actually, it doesn't know. What's it? So what's it complaining about on line 59? Cannot convert. Oh, we have to say dot stream after the values. So I don't think we can use. No, we can't. That's a method handler. You can't call a method on that.
Oh.
So I have to say convert that to a lambda. And then now you can say dot stream. Yeah. There we go.
I don't reformat that often, and I don't remember that shortcut. Let me see. It's L. Control Alt
I always
L.
think of L for layout.
Ah. So now rerun the test.
I expect this to fail.
Oh baby, it did.
Yep.
Because we were depending on it being blanks.
Mm-hmm. So we need to
before.
refilter that to restore the previous behavior.
Meaning change this filter? Or
No, we need to add a filter after we've converted it back to strings.
ah,
Right, because where we're getting an empty is right here, and so now we want to filter not is empty. Yep. Hey there, Key Turn. Nice to see you. Welcome. Speaking of Agile Open Northwest.
oh, cool.
So this preserves the behavior. It's a little bit wonky because we are essentially ignoring failures, but we're ignoring failures anyway. But we're just trying to get backwards compatibility, and then we'll be able to push forward on some of that.
If we go back to column mapper, is anybody else using extract column? No, just
No.
this.
So now we can inline that.
And remove, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm. Sure.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. It's going to be a big method now.
As to be expected.
Should we rename this back to
Yeah, so now we can rename it back to just extract column.
everything should work, but running tests is cheap.
Alrighty. So let's do a commit, and then we've got some disable tests to enable.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds
Is that
good.
right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes, Bash. There's it's somewhat similar to Link. The Stream API is definitely of a similar idea of having specifying a pipeline of thing. Although I think Link is much more powerful because it's basically in a sense, a different embedded language. All right, so let's start re-enabling some of those tests. Let's the ones that are labeled enable once we return result failure. Those are probably the ones we want to start with.
You want to start with song importer or lower down?
I feel like lower down is probably where we should start.
Start with this one.
Sure. So let's enable it and see what happens.
I was doing these, starting to read the test
I think that
method, and I'm glad you just said just run it. Oh, you thought it should
So
work, apparently.
I thought it should work, but we may. Uh, what's let's see. So what happened was we basically um, changed our failure behavior. So um, we are ignoring failures because our parse song does not return a result. Or it does not, sorry, it does not propagate the failures that we get from our column mapper to the result song. But that's good. So this test is failing in a sense for the right reason, because we don't have the correct behavior in our extract column.
So extract column. I want to just try and grok this.
You can close the bottom window.
Yeah.
And you can close the little dialog there. So keep in mind what it used to do when it encountered a problem. It threw an exception.
Right. So it throws an exception. Right now, we're just grabbing the message from the failure.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we are stuffing it into the result failure.
Yes. But is anybody paying attention to the result failures from extract column? So who uses extract column? Right. So if any of
Oh, it's
those
all
fail,
assuming. It's assuming.
it's ignoring it. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it's funny. I had in the back of my brain when we changed the first one,
Mm-hmm.
like, hey, shouldn't we be checking for failure? And then
Yes.
I moved on with my robotic
Right.
search and manual replace.
Yeah.
Okay. So after each of these, we're going to need to test the result. The result of string.
So what do we want to do if they fail?
So this is a single failure message, but there is the whole paradigm that we've set up of
Mm-hmm.
having a collection of failure messages.
Uh-huh.
So we kind of want to mimic that and
Mm-hmm.
not just fail immediately and just start collecting them.
Right.
And where are we currently collecting them? At what level? Because you could see where the usages are. Song importer. So we're doing it at two places, it looks like. Or at least we're accessing them.
Right. But I think what we want to do is we want to, what do we want to return from our song parser? Right. So we are returning a result, but right now we're no
Only
longer
doing success.
we're only doing success.
Right. So we'll have to do some sort of test once we've hit everything.
Yeah. So
Actually, wait a second.
yeah.
Well, there's also extract themes.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That one
That we're also ignoring
we're
failures.
ignoring. I guess let's start with artist, song title, release type first. We want to basically do a if I guess we need to collect failures. We need to
Well,
check the. Yeah, sorry. Go on.
let's go one step at a time. How do
Okay.
we make the currently failing test pass?
Where is it failing again? At 164.
So where would we like it to fail? What is at a high level in English, how is this failing? What are we asking for, and why do we expect that it should not work?
Sorry, I'm just getting my head wrapped around something. Give me a second.
I would say don't look at the stack trace, that's gonna confuse you.
Ah,
I want you to think at a higher level. What in
got
English,
it.
what's the inputs, and why do we expect it to fail?
Right. We're passing in 2 columns. We're saying there should be 3, 4.
That's not quite what we're asking for. We're saying, here's a row, and what are we asking for? We're asking for which is the request into column mapper that's actually causing the failure. And I want you to close the stack trace.
Oh, I wasn't even looking at it, but
Yeah.
yeah, sure. The call to column mapper.
So knowing how column mapper works, what are we asking of column mapper that's causing it to fail?
We're asking it. I feel like I'm going to come back and say the same thing. We're asking it to parse a song that has 4 columns and it only has 2
Right. And so how does it know how many that it needs to do?
through the constructor here. It says
Right.
we need these 4.
Well, 3.
Oh, right. The space confused me.
Yeah.
These 3.
So where does that happen? Where do we do that check?
Right here.
Okay.
And that throws an exception.
Does it though? So let's run the test again.
Right. That's why the stack trace was confusing.
Yeah. So, but I wanted us to be clear about what our expectation was. So we expected it to internally throw an exception because the column counts shouldn't match. But we got something else, right? Right. So TSV song, when it's parsed, has 2 elements in it. And column mapper, when it's parsed, has 3 columns in it. So now we can go uh, and now look, when does that requirement get sort of
Check.
established?
It's not. Am I getting? I'm just
Well,
making sure.
when does it get when does column mapper enforce, right? It enforces it the first time you call extract column.
Right. But the current usages are always 1 column at a time.
So let's run the test again. So now that we have a better understanding of what the failure is.
So at this point, it thinks we're success because it's doing
Yes,
the success problem.
right.
So somewhere in here, we have to make sure whether we're actually succeeding or not.
Right. So basically, artist returned a failure result that we were
But we
ignoring.
ignore it. Right.
So we could add in a check for artist. Was it successful or not?
I hate to use bang. Um,
Well, it's either that or you wrap the return.
yeah. So for now, we move this in.
And so I
Now
want
we'll move the error, right?
to. So now we're only returning if artist is success. What do we want to do if artist is a failure?
Right. So we probably should change it to is failure. Is failure a
No, I think what you had actually is fine.
oh, Control Shift C.
Right. So now let's put in the else because we have to return something,
Right.
or we can just say return. We don't need an else.
True. Now we haven't collected the messages yet.
Well, we're only doing artist, so there's only one possible
True.
place to get failures from. Yep. So Bash mentions, can't we put on breakpoints and check? And that is against the entire philosophy of test-driven development. So what I find when people start going into breakpoints is you don't have a good is folks end up not having a good theory or really hypothesis of what's going on. So when I find people jump right into the debugger, even if they have tests, they're doing that without a clear understanding of what is our expectation, what should it be doing, why do we think it should be doing that, and where is it then actually going wrong. There should be no reason to go into the debugger to figure that out. It's harder because we have to think. It's very easy to jump into the debugger and start debugging and start looking, and I find people then spend a lot of time because they're not clear what they're looking for. It's very much like, something's wrong, I'm just gonna look around and hope
Needle in
something
a
pops out
haystack.
at me. Yeah.
Yeah. That's why that can end up being like a time suck.
Exactly. Yeah.
So the failure is now a little bit more specific.
So it's close. The question is this now was our expectation correct in terms of so we definitely got a failure. We expected a failure. Um, but is the message what we want?
So right now it's returning this.
Yes.
And if that's what we want, I guess the one thing it's missing is what does the row currently contain?
Right.
And is that valuable?
Right.
So I guess we could, but I think interesting. So the number of this format exists somewhere in some code, or maybe it doesn't anymore. In other words, we could just change the expectation to be this.
Yeah.
It
But
feels a little bit blind.
well, so this again goes back to the question is what we're asserting in line 169 at the top, is that what we want? I don't care what it does. Is that what we want? What should it do? What do we want it to do?
I kind of like the current assert, frankly.
Yeah, the current assert is
Um,
exactly what we want. And so if that's what we want, then we're gonna have to change more code. But again, this process of we specify in our tests when we're doing test-driven development, what do we want, regardless of what it currently does? What do we want? Because we should want things, and we should want good things. And I think that having it specified, this is the row that we have a mismatch, that should be in the output. So our test is correct.
The thing I'm wondering is, where is this message coming from?
That's coming from the exception message. Because that's all it did. And what we want to do eventually, and this is probably the time to do, is we'd like to stop throwing the exception, because we're throwing it and then immediately catching it and pulling out the message, which makes no sense.
Right, because
So
originally it was an exception-based
yeah,
method, but
right.
now it's interesting. I forgot about this.
Yeah, I mean, this is the entire reason we are moving to result, is because this is a validation error, and we want to not throw exceptions for validation errors.
Yeah.
So we're throwing it internally because we've just done refactorings, and so we've encapsulated that behavior now inside of here. But now it's kind of ridiculous. We're literally throwing an
Throwing
exception
from
on 21 that we catch on 29,
right.
when I think we can do that a little bit nicer.
Yeah.
But perhaps we should take a break first.
Is it that time already? Wow, it
Yep,
is.
yep.
Okay.
So let's take a break. And when we come back from the break, we'll get rid of this ridiculous catch and immediately throw of the exception. Uh, yeah, so this is the result of a refactoring. We basically had done some work, and we've done some inlining, and we end up with this thing, which technically is returning a result instead of throwing an exception. But that's not what we actually want. We want to stop throwing the exception so we can start catching it, and we can basically clean up this method. And this is all about validation. All right, so let's take a break, and we'll
Sounds good.
see you in 5.
Great.
So, folks, you may be aware that I have a game that helps you learn some of the principles of test-driven development. So it's called JitterTed's TDD game. As I mentioned at the top of the stream, I played it uh, at a conference with a total of about 20 people. Everybody had fun. Everybody learned something. And so if you want to, especially with your team, play a game that helps you discuss and foster discussion around test-driven development, and also have fun as a both a, not just a learning tool, but also it's fun. So go ahead and you can go to uh, a website that's dedicated to this, and you can actually watch a video. So the video on the site um, over here is a presentation I gave a few weeks ago to the Agile Lunch and Learn group, where I talk about predictive test-driven development, basically the process that we've been doing here on stream and that I do on all our streams, and then run through the game and show you what the game is all about. So go ahead and check that out. Go to tdd.cards and you'll see the video, and you can always come to the Discord and ask any questions. So take a look at that and let me know what you think. All right, so back to you're muted, Mike. There we go. Nope.
Now the double
There you
mute is
go.
over. Double
Yes.
mute.
Yes.
Double secret mute is over.
Right.
So this is interesting. We want to have this message.
Mm-hmm.
We're currently throwing that ugly exception from here, from acquires. We want to convert that to returning a failure result at the require point.
So we're
When
currently in
yeah,
red. So we either, if we want to do any kind of refactoring, we need to get back to green.
true.
Which is an important feature of my game as well, because there are only certain places where you can play the refactor card.
Yeah. So we can either disable test again, refactor,
We
or
could.
so the test is this. It's not meeting our goals. We do want this to be our goal.
Right.
Getting back quickly to green. Is there a way to do that with a hack and then refactor?
Well, we could try the steal, right? Lie, cheat, or steal. So we can lie and steal and basically just return that hard-coded string and see what happens.
Oh, this one. Got it.
We know that's not going to work, but we can also see then what else breaks.
Right.
Or if it does work, then we know we're missing perhaps some tests.
But where would we return it from? Because this is throwing an exception. Oh, I guess we could change this to that. Then the failure will get caught.
Right.
Then that message will get sent back.
Yes.
So just blurt this pile out. No, copy. What? Okay, paste buffer, Control Shift V. That one. Okay, now rerun the test.
Mm-hmm. So this is good because this tells us which test was expecting the stuff we got that we actually don't like. So now we can go to our column mapper test and say, is this test right? And I think it's not.
So this would be something of the form. Well, but then change it to
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4. Actually, this one's going to be different.
So the number of columns is how much is in the row, which is
So
6.
that's 6. And then row contains.
I would just say run it and
Characterize test.
although we can't characterize it because it's not going to be characterized correctly. So because it's
Oh,
always going
right,
to
because
return
it's
hush
going to.
true.
Yeah.
But it's basically it's basically just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc.
Yeah.
Because there's no quotes or anything.
Within the squares.
Yeah.
So that's what we want.
Right.
Now it should fail, but it's going to fail in the way we want it to fail.
Yeah. Right. So now we can generalize.
That's here,
Mhm.
and it requires matching. So actually, was that in my paste buffer? I want to see something. No. Yeah, I've forgotten what the syntax is. Is it basically %s?
Yeah, it's %s. Yeah.
Okay.
No, we want to do a dot formatted because we're using the string formatter.
Oh, right. Tradition in Java to make that a new line like that, or no?
That's fine.
The number of columns was so. Actually, which one is it? Header column size, columns length, number of columns. So it's actually columns.length.
Right. And if you didn't notice, we would have noticed that when we ran the test.
True. And then %s. Nope, size. And then the third thing. Actually, at this point, can we? Yeah, we can. Right. So this would be %s. Then we would row is
It's the parameter that was passed in.
columns. Now, how do we?
So I notice you hesitated, and that might indicate that our argument name is not quite
True.
specific enough. However,
We
we
can't
will
refactor right
also,
now. Yeah.
well, this kind of refactor for that where we notice that we stumbled, and it's a local name refactor, I'd be fine with refactoring it. But let's get the
Compile.
let's get to at least compiling. Yes.
So we want it to be each of
So
the
you're
columns
so it's
separated
not
by.
so it's not compiling because you're missing a
Right.
closed paren.
Oh, is
Now it's
that
compiling.
sufficient? Oh, it's compiling, but it's still not going to work though.
Well, it's not going to work, but I wanted to get us to compile so we could refactor.
Rename. Got it. Shift F6. Rename code. Rename.
Yeah, you want
Oh,
no.
this one.
Yes.
within the
All,
method.
all occurrences would rename any text that happened to use that word.
Ah, got it. So is it rows?
Well, it's a single row.
Right, because we're doing extractor column.
We could say parsed row. Or row as columns, or we might just say it's columns and we just have to deal with it. Or columns for row.
Ah. Row columns?
Either one.
But row columns sounds like header in a way to me.
I'm
Which is
fine
not a
with
header.
this.
Yeah, let's stick with it
Yeah,
for now.
because the other thing that it might indicate as well is there might even be a missing abstraction.
Right. Okay, so if you run this, it's going to fail because it hasn't dealt with the commas and the. But
Well, it
interesting to
has,
see
but
what-
not in the way that you expected.
Right. Yeah.
So
So
we've
it's
seen
like
this. We've seen this before, and what we wanted to use a method on arrays.
But which method on arrays? Oh, is it like literally like arrays dot kind of thing?
Yeah, and then toString, and then pass in
And
the.
don't use tab. So it's either tab or enter. Enter. There we go. Does that just comma separate it all by itself?
Mm-hmm.
We'll find out.
So you're missing a close paren.
Yeah, right.
So that's where your
Control, what is it?
Control Shift Enter will be useful.
Right.
So close.
Code completion.
The toString already provides the square brackets, so we need to drop that from the string. Voila.
Sweet. I don't know if you noticed it was 2 tests that were broken.
Because for the last one, yes, because we had had the extra
square brackets. Yeah.
Yep.
Sweet. Okay. So we generified it, but we're still throwing an exception. We wanted to not.
Right, but we're back at green, so I suggest that we do a commit.
Oh, right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Basically fixed. Interesting. It's only for artists.
That's the only test we have failing. We've got other tests that we want to enable.
Right. Gotcha.
As they say, TDD means whatever you intend is working.
Right.
But that doesn't mean everything works.
I don't remember the name of that test.
Well, that's not the test that triggered our.
Was it the other one? This one?
It was the song parser one.
Right. A horrible sentence.
So this is a case where my preference for commit messages are what did we do, not what can I figure out by looking at diffs.
Right.
So this is doesn't matter that we re-enable the test. It's we handle column differences between the header and the data and improve the error message. maybe row data.
Do we improve the error message or maintain the original one?
No, we actually improved the failure message.
Oh, right.
Because
for the require exception, not the other one.
right.
Okay, sound good?
Yep. So Bash asks about code coverage. I expect to be pretty much at 100%. There's no reason you should be at anything less than 100%. Putting aside things that are not behavior, like setters and getters that you might have on DTOs and things like that. But if you're doing TDD, you're going to get all coverage of everything that needs to be covered. Now, with that said, code coverage is a terrible metric, and you should not have that as a target goal for any of your work. If you work in a place that requires a code coverage percent, you really want to have a discussion about why you're doing that, because it does not provide the information that you think it provides. It does not say anything about the quality of your tests. All it says is that code was executed. I actually think the word coverage is misleading, and I wish people would stop using it because it is not covered. It means it was just executed as a side effect of your tests. It does not tell you if that code was checked to see if it did the right thing, which is what you want from tests. If you want that, use mutation testing. If you do TDD, your mutation tests will pass if you did TDD correctly. If you're not doing TDD, you're going to have a hard time, and it's likely your mutation tests are going to find code that wasn't properly validated and verified. All right, now let's refactor this mess.
We could start by inlining requiring matching count because
Yep.
we don't want to throw an exception anyway.
Yep.
Now our method's even bigger.
Has to get bigger before it gets smaller.
Yep, exactly. So we want to at this point return a failure message.
Yep.
So this would be
Yep.
And it should be sufficient. Let me run it. Should still be green.
Yep.
Okay, sweet. So now, are we ever going to get an illegal argument exception anymore? Because the only time we were getting it was because we were throwing it. Or were there other?
Oh, that was the only, you inlined the only place it was thrown.
Got it.
And so it's no longer thrown, so we can get rid of the try block.
Is there a
You're gonna have to delete the catch clause.
Oh, really? In order to get it to
which means it's almost not worth it, because then you could just delete the try line. There's no automatic. I don't think there's an automatic way to do it.
There's not an
There's not a remove. Yeah, and you can just, you don't need to select anything if you want to reformat.
Right, that's true. Alt L. But now we get this double. Oh, we can just inline that. Oh, wait a second. No, maybe not.
Well, that you can inline right there on line 30. And that got rid of the local variable because we actually weren't using it anymore.
Right.
So that's better. What else can we do?
Columns only used inside this if block.
No, it's actually used.
Oh, out here. Yeah. Never mind.
But we can move it closer.
Yeah, that's true.
And so this should look familiar, this pattern. We have basically a validation guard clause. that returns a failure if something doesn't match. Otherwise, if it's successful, then we do this.
Part of me wants to give this a name, turn it into a method, but
Sure.
I definitely love the require approach, but that only works for exceptions.
That only
not
works for exceptions. That's the downside of using failure is it's a little bit harder to extract those out.
Yeah. I forgot what we called it originally. Require,
Well, here you have to rephrase it as
not as require, but
not as require as a question.
yeah. Do you usually use is as your verb? I don't really like that.
No, not in
Do
this case.
if just like this, number
Yeah.
of columns match.
Yeah.
If number of columns match. Yeah.
So again, sort of like
You got a tweak for it?
name it and then see, does this read correctly? Is there anything missing?
Matching what?
Yeah.
Match header.
Yeah. And is that the correct direction? So is that truly saying number of columns match header?
Oh, they don't match.
If
If
they
number of
don't
columns.
match.
Yeah. Number of columns. If number of header columns don't match. Of course, I messed up, but I'll fix that in a second. I really made a mess there.
So Bash, we'll get to your question in a second, but we're gonna do some naming stuff here.
Let's see, my buffer, did I have the right name? I did. Okay.
So we probably don't, no
Sorry.
pun intended, want the word don't in here.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to figure out how to
Yeah.
flip that so that it's number of header columns don't match. If fail to match, mismatch. No, I'm not sure I like that either. What about if mismatched? If header columns mismatch row columns? Nah, it still doesn't read that great. Naming is hard. If header columns
So we're passing in the row columns, so we can take
Yeah.
that out of the method name.
I don't know. I'm still uncomfortable with the word mismatch. It's
So we
better
can
than don't
rephrase
match.
that to and we can, well, we can expand any contractions we can expand. So we can say header columns do not match.
Oh, true. And then if we did that, we probably should rename this one to row columns.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Can we make this even better? If header columns contain column name. I guess this could be extracted into a method. Assertions
Yes,
calling.
but I think we're going to be playing around with this because we're going to, instead of returning an empty string, we're going to want to return a failure. So I would probably I'd probably leave it
For now, but
yeah.
it may be a crime.
Let's run our tests, make sure we didn't break anything.
Yeah.
So Bash asks the question, are we worried about time complexity of a method?
Is the meaning of time complexity meaning is Bash's in meaning like is it going to be too slow? Is that
That's
the
my
interpretation?
that's my interpretation, Bash, if you're saying something else. But I'm assuming you mean, do we have to care about the time complexity, the performance of a method?
The answer is no.
No. Now,
Until
well, so
the
with our
snarky answer is no,
with
but
our
not
with
really
our
snarky.
well, with our coaches or consultants hat on, is what's our answer there is it
It
depends.
depends.
So if you know you are working in a context where runtime and time complexity are vital to the success of your project, then you're going to worry a lot about that stuff, and you're going to do things up front that fulfill that need. That means you're working on something like a game that require a real-time game that requires sufficient performance and response time. You're working on some kind of real-time or near real-time system. General business applications and online SaaS tools and things like that, for the most part, there's no point in worrying about that because you're going to find out when you actually do some measurements. There is, unless you are an expert, there's almost no way you can predict the runtime performance of code. Because especially in Java, it does two levels of really more than that, right? It compiles code, and then that code is run in a runtime that does all sorts of crazy optimizations that might be non-intuitive or go against your intuition. My favorite is, won't creating more smaller methods slow your code down? And it turns out that actually it can speed your code up, which might seem totally like, wait, aren't you doing all these jumps or whatever? Because that's might be the mental model you have about how code is executed. But in fact, that is not the way the runtime works. So the short answer is no, I'm generally not worried about it because I will do profiling of it and then find out where the actual bottlenecks are and then fix those.
Yeah, what do they call it?
Premature.
Premature optimization is usually a failing.
Yeah, so premature optimization is the root of all evil.
Yeah, that's it.
But it depends on the situation whether it's premature or not.
Right.
In this application, and again in sort of most applications that most people work on, performance is not a consideration. And if you focus on performance, which is what people tend to do, especially more junior people, because they were just taught in school about big O notation, and it leads them to believe that performance is really important, when it's not. It's understandability and readability of code that is of primary concern.
Which goes queue up, rant about
Yes.
education system.
Yeah, I'm not going to queue that up.
No, I know. Put it low in the queue.
You all can queue it up on your own. I'm sure you can find at least a few in past streams. All right, so
I'll rerun the test. I can't remember if I did or not.
So what do we want to do? What do we want to do in the
We get
last
rid
10 minutes or so?
Oh, time flies.
Yeah.
Do we have
So
any
we have
other?
some more disabled tests that we want
We
to.
do. So we could tackle the ones that stay.
Yep.
And let's work bottom up again. So maybe let's work on this one next.
Sure.
What's the deal with you? Well, nope, I'm not going to look at it. I'm going to do a TED approach, just delete disabled and rerun the test and see, rather than trying to become human compiler. Okay. So here it got a false. Sorry, it got a true where expected a false.
Right. And so we have a nice error message, which says it should not have succeeded.
Right, we've only built it for a single.
So does this test make sense? Is this so? And by make sense, I mean, is this the behavior we want from our system?
So right now, parse all, the title is parse all returns multiple failure messages. We have two malformed songs, meaning the first one's, the header is 3 columns.
So if we look at the failure messages no longer make sense given our current context of parsing the header row.
Right, there is no minimum of 5 anymore.
There's no minimum of anything.
Right.
But we can
repurpose this test to.
We can change the header row to be 5 elements, and then that should be what we want.
Do you want to give them real names? Or
I don't like using bogus stuff. I like using realistic stuff.
Okay, so
we can say theme 1 and theme 2 since those are valid columns.
Sure.
And the data doesn't include those.
Just rerun.
Let's rerun. I think this should work. Yeah. We got what we wanted.
Cool. One more.
Yeah.
Well, it's disabled because it's not written. Parse all returns.
So this is another question of, do we want to have required header columns? I think we do.
Yeah.
But let's defer that because that's going to be a longer.
Yep. No, this one a quick.
But let's actually add a comment in a sense, a message to our disabled saying that we want this, but it's not. We haven't implemented it yet. Yeah, desired. Yep.
That work?
Yep.
Okay. Just going to run the test just to make sure it compiles. Okay. Then this one is also waiting for mismatch. So we'll just re-enable it and see what happens. Ah.
Yeah, so again, this is literally the same change we need to make to line 57.
Yeah. Okay, rerun. Now we're expecting this to pass, which it did. So now we get left. This is the last one.
Yep.
For the same model. We'll rerun it. This. Oh, how that one passes.
Yeah, let's take a closer look. Yeah,
I'm curious.
It is not successful. Because here we have a weird situation, but it's just basically at this level, right? This is at our service level. We're just saying if we get something like this, that means there's something wrong.
Now, do we Is this still a valid test though? Because could we copy and paste in? I mean, you have to do a really, stand on your head, copy and paste out of Excel to get one row with 2 cells and another row with 3 cells. I don't even know enough Excel foo. Can you do that? Can you
Well,
do this?
you can shift it, you can shift select. But I think the larger question is what is this actually testing?
Yeah.
So the test method name unfortunately doesn't give us a lot.
No.
What are some of the other tests before this one?
Added songs are saved to repository, bulk add songs using TSV format,
Yeah, so
multiple songs.
this is mainly checking is the service wired up to the parser correctly in terms of returning failures. So I think if we want a more realistic failure, then we can do what we've done before with those other tests.
Meaning add.
Yeah, give it sort of a valid failure.
And actually, there's no header, so this would be release title, and this would be 2. Now that's
Well, so
good.
that's interesting. So this is no longer 2 malformed songs because it's missing the header. So this is
Right.
this is unrealistic data. So we should grab a header from somewhere that's valid. That is completely valid, like that one. Yeah, but we want.
Well, we want it to fail.
Well, the variable is called 2 malformed songs. So either we
Oh,
change the variable or we add another invalid song.
and another song. Okay, so this is actually artist 1. Oh, never mind. Let's do this. Or should we? You know what? It's confusing. Let's get real artist names.
You can just grab from the one above it and just remove stuff. Yep. 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 Excellent.
Okay, so that one passes. Then we want to rename it so it's not quite so funky.
Yep.
What would we call this? What's a better?
Malformed songs causes bulk add to fail.
Yeah, that's better.
All right, so we should only have one ignored test, correct?
Yeah,
One disabled test. Yep.
and that's the one.
That's the one that we'll want. Yep.
So should
All
we
right,
go to Jira?
let's go to Jira.
Still giggle every time, internally at least. Okay.
So we can close Jira at 72. So we have done that. That I think we'll do next time.
Yeah. Should we? Is that part of the test that we just?
No,
No.
that's a separate issue. This is maybe we want to add this as a feature.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
Require columns.
I'm just going to put that there for a second. Require check for ensure that all rows
No, this is requiring header row to
Header columns.
have specific columns.
You don't want to call them required columns. You want to call them specific columns.
Well, I prefer the term require rather than ensure, because
Oh,
requires an upfront check, a precondition check. So we're saying that require that header rows have specific columns. Yeah, or specified, whatever.
I got to fix the spelling of require. Require that header rows have specific columns. Yeah, that works. So we're going to work on Jira 73 next time. And then 74.
Yes.
Someday we'll get to persist the database.
Yeah, I was thinking we might get to it today, but nope.
I was thinking today too. I know. Darn.
It took us a while to generify results. That was actually an unexpected. I didn't actually think we'd need to do that, but we did.
Yeah.
And
it's reminded me that I need to get my butt in gear and spend some time doing stream katas, because that stuff is still like my head's not grokking it. I need to do some intentional learning on that front.
Yep, deliberate practice helps.
Yes.
We also have the thing that we wanted to do for creating a custom assertion for results, and I think
Is that up here?
would like to do that.
This one? Should move this one down. Is it within?
Yeah, we can move it. We can move it down, and that may also require us to also have some concrete subclasses, but I think we'll have to wait on that.
What's the ordering?
We are. I kind of want to do the custom assert next. We also are missing some tests, so we only capture failure for, and I think
the artist. Because right now we're just testing for artists.
Yeah. The question is, will we catch that when we? I think when we handle the empty string as being a failure, I think we'll start capturing that.
Do we have that as a to-do?
Because right now there's no other failures that can happen to any of the other columns. Right, so if artist fails, sorry, if artist succeeds, the rest must succeed.
Right, we're not testing for the rest having.
Well, nothing can go wrong with the rest of them.
Oh.
Right? If artist succeeds, then the rest of them must succeed.
You have to explain that.
So, in what ways can extract column fail? What is the only time it can be failure?
The first time we check it.
Right. And whether if the columns mismatch, they're not going to suddenly match. If the columns match, they're not going to suddenly mismatch. Which means we probably want to promote this error.
Yeah, I was going to say move this up.
Yeah.
So it's less confusing.
Yes. But my point of the only when we get to the empty string, that will be the other failure mode. Because right now there is no other failure mode.
We have an empty string on our list.
Yep.
We do?
Yep. 73.
It doesn't exist. Empty string. Got it.
Yep.
So those next three are our next three tickets.
Yes.
I just like ticket even more than calling it a Jira number. Yeah.
Yep.
It's even worse.
All right,
Okay.
folks. Thank you for hanging out with us. Our next pair stream is probably not going to be until next week, unless maybe we do something this weekend. But actually, that's probably not going to happen. So again, join the Discord if you want to be notified more than just a minute in advance. You certainly appreciate subscribe and follow on the appropriate channel, as it were. YouTube, please subscribe. That would be great. On Twitch, please follow. That's great. But you'll only get notifications when we go live. So if you'd like advanced notifications, knowing your best bet is on the Discord. Go to the Discord, join the Discord. If you don't already have get notified, there's you go into the roles channel and you click the little alert button underneath the be notified when I announce stuff around streaming. I try to do that as much in advance as I know about. Sometimes it is only 10 minutes, but often it's at least a day or two, sometimes several days in advance. So that's the best way to be notified. And you can also then ask questions and have discussions about the stuff that you've seen on the stream. Oh, did you want to commit what we did?
Yeah, you
Did we
want to do
miss
that?
Yeah.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and commit.
And we re-enabled a bunch of tests and got them to work.
Yeah.
But that's a high level. It's not, it feels like a little too abstract. Or you say, yep, that's okay.
I mean, we enable tests and revise them. Well, and in some cases they just worked.
Right.
We can say and verify that they describe desired behavior. And I think that's a really important step. Often we look at tests and assume that they are, in a sense, correct, especially if they've already been there. Yeah, that they're sacrosanct, that we must not touch them. It's like, no, do they still describe behavior that you want, or do they no longer describe behavior that you want, or they describe behavior that you are now in the process of changing, and so you need to change your tests. So it's not always changing code. All right. So I'll be doing a solo stream tomorrow. Not sure. And I am running a half marathon on Saturday, so I will not be streaming on Saturday. Cross your fingers that the weather holds up. It's looking like it'll rain a little bit, but that shouldn't be too bad. And yeah, so see you all on the Discord or on the next stream, and have a great rest of your day.